Yo, what is up, guys? Joker bringing you another video for the 3.22 trial of the Ancestors League, going over the results of my Battle of the Guardians test on which invitation was the most profitable to run. I'm going to be going over pros and cons for each of them, and then give my opinion on which one you should actually run. Up above me, you can see the profit that we actually made. It was 14 div in total to buy the 40 sets, plus a little bit more for when we had to buy invitation, so closer to 17 div. But all in all, you can see we made a 29 div of profit. And that's taking into consideration buying the sets and the invitations. So, invitations on their own, regardless of which set you do, it is profitable. All of them are profitable. There is no loss doing it. Like at the example of the Elder and the Shaper Guardian, you still make 10 div every 40 maps that you run, which is really good. The Conquerors is a lot more variable because you have the ability of dropping the Awakener's orbs as well. So it does kind of juice up the prices there. Now, with that being said, as you can see, Conquerors was 11 div, Elder Slayers was 10, and Shaper Guardians was 8. This is subject to change, especially if you do much larger sample sizes and have better RNG. The only one that's not going to change is going to be the Elder Guardians, and it's not going to be changing by very much at all because for some reason, destructive play does not, nope, wrong atlas. Destructive play does not proc with the Elder Guardians at all, which means that the bosses themselves weren't dropping any kind of awakened gems, whereas in the other two maps, there were the map bosses that dropped me awakened gems, as well as them dropping the synthesized and the influenced maps. I think I just got kind of unlucky with the Shaper Guardian maps, or it's just the fact that the Shaper Guardian fragments are so much cheaper than everything else. That's why it was profit, but it was still less profit because it's just so cheap. If you did this earlier in the league, it would probably be a lot more profit. Well, it'd obviously be a lot more profit. Hey guys, real quick, if you wouldn't mind, 80 some percent of you are not subscribed, which is a lot better than a lot of other people I see doing this shameless plug. So shout out to the subs. But if you wouldn't mind, like, commenting, and subscribing so you could be a part of the other 12%. With that being said, how would I rank these? I would rank them essentially in the same way that they're showing right now, right? Where it's Elder Slayers, Twisted, and then the Formed. The reason for this is the Shaper Guardians by far have the worst map layouts because they have their own map and it's pretty much just a straight line. Whereas these other two, you get to run an entire other map on top of it. And the Hydra and the Minotaur are extremely annoying if you give them extra damage or AoE or extra proj. They're just really annoying. So that's why it's third, not only because it was the least profit, but because these are the most annoying bosses out of the set of bosses, and the maps are the worst, in my opinion. That being said, if you are super zoomy and are able to make it through these maps because it's pretty much almost a straight line, then you can make a lot of profit. And if you have no problem, if you have a lot of damage mitigation or avoidance, and you have no problem dealing with the mechanics of Minotaur or Hydra, then you may prefer this to others. But above that, we have the Twisted. This is going to be because of the amount of profit, almost beating out the Conquerors, on top of the fact that these are the easiest bosses. These maps do take a little bit longer because of the fact that Elder keeps phasing the boss, and the fact that destructive play does not work is a downside. But the Elder fragments are worth enough on their own that you're going to make steady profit. And with the bosses being the easiest, this, in my opinion, if they fix destructive play, would be the best. But since it's broken right now, it's second best. And then we have the Elder Slayers. This is probably kind of obvious, and for several reasons. The Elder Slayer maps just add so many mobs onto the map, and it's part of the reason why their maps themselves are so expensive. Is these maps you can couple with any strategy, unlike the Formed, where it has its own map, and this map sucks for a large amount of strategies. The Twisted, you can kind of do the same, but it feels like it spawns less mobs than the Elder Slayer maps. So once again, that's why it is lower. But this spits out so many extra mobs in the map, on top of the fact that you get to kill the map boss and then the Elder Slayer. So you have the ability of doing two different types of Maven fights. You can do a normal 10 way on top of doing the Elder Slayer invitation, on top of the fact that you get destructive play. So this just is the most rewarding, and that's probably tied to the fact of it being so expensive. But in my opinion, the Elder Slayers are the second easiest. I still say that Minotaur and Hydra are the most annoying. They just are, especially because Hydra keeps teleporting away unless you instantly kill it and fills the arena with balls. Minotaur goes ahead and slams huge AoEs, and those rocks do a million damage. So unless you're super tanky, you're going to be dying to that. Or if you give him extra attack or cast speed, and he's just constantly diving under the ground, these are just the most annoying bosses. These are super easy. You can instantly kill them. That's why they're number one. Most profitable, easiest to kill, most juiced maps. It's just the best. If we go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers that I jotted down, out of the 10 Elder Slayer sets, it was 8 divs, so roughly 46C per map. With the 10 Shaper Guardians, it was 3 div, and with the 10 Elder Guardians, it was also 3 div. So, relatively, if you have a lower budget or less currency, you're going to want to run either one of these, whichever you prefer. Like I recommended, the Shaper Guardians are going to be faster but more annoying. The Elder Guardians are going to be slower but more consistent profit. Plus, the boss fights are just easier. Now, for the invitations themselves, Elder Slayer invitations were 140C, the Formed invitations were 140C, and the Twisted invitations were 80C. This was a big part of the profit as well, is because these invitations are literally almost half the price of the others. That allowed it to be a lot more rewarding, with the shards being naturally more expensive as well. That being said, in the 120 maps, I dropped 20 invitations. So it's roughly a 1 in 6 from what I can tell, because of the fact that the wiki and everything else that I found says it's random. But after 120 maps, the fact that I found 20 is kind of a small, decent sample size. If someone does like thousands of maps and gets a different number, believe that, because obviously larger sample size means that's more likely to be correct. That being said, Elder Slayers, we dropped 5 invitations and we had to buy 5. With the Shaper Guardians, we dropped 8 and we had to buy 2. And the Elder Guardians, we dropped 7 and we had to buy 3. With that being said, I think that these two do have a naturally higher drop rate than the Elder Slayers, unless I just got unlucky. The fact that these two were almost on the same drop rate and this was only pretty much a 50-50 is not as good. So I feel like is a 1 in 6 for these two. But then the Elder Slayer may have a different drop rate for the invitation, because unless I just got unlucky or something, it seems like it definitely is rare. All right, and that's pretty much bringing us to the end of this video. In my opinion, which one should you run? Honestly, you should run Elder Slayers or the Twisted. I have a bias against Shaper and Shaper Guardians, but they are all extremely profitable. So you can choose to run whichever one you like, because as you can see, the profits are extremely close to each other. With each of them, you're 3xing the amount that you put in. So as long as you can kill the invitation, you're going to be making a large amount of profit. That being said, the only things to keep in mind is Shaper Guardians are super annoying and hit really hard. And the Twisted does not work with destructive play. So you're going to want to put literally anything else on your map if you're running the Twisted, because destructive play doesn't work and these bosses don't drop influenced maps or awakened gems. So you're going to want to go ahead and run literally any other strategy alongside the Twisted. But with these two, you're going to want to do the destructive play strategy because, as you saw, I dropped like 40 of each map with the keystones. I'll have my atlas down in the description so you can copy it one for one if you would like. But like I said, that's pretty much the end of this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.